kind of this immigration situation that we've heard over the weekend about these kids that have gone missing, and also about what has happened under the Obama administration and also the Trump administration, because I think that a lot of this is getting a little muddied. So first off, under Barack Obama, his administration implemented DACA, which was to basically protect minors that had come into the United States that basically, anyways, yeah, it was to protect those minors, to assure that because of no fault of their own, they came into the US, so they weren't considered by any means as criminals. They only know the United States. They only pretty much speak English, a lot of them. And so it made a lot of sense to implement a piece of ruling or anything like that to protect this group of people. Now, DACA did not apply to young immigrants coming into the United States after 2007. And so that's kind of a thing that we hear a lot of the time on the right, is that, under Barack Obama, he allowed a flood of immigrants because of DACA, because they would be safe. However, it did not apply to anybody coming into the US after 2007. And Barack Obama did not come into office until 2008. So it wasn't even under his administration. Now, there is kind of a note here that there was seen an influx of children coming into the United States during his presidency, but we will get to that. So under Barack Obama, so before Jeff Sessions basically made an announcement that families were going to, instead of being released, were going to be separated at the border. And this is obviously a zero tolerance policy. And again, this is under the Trump administration. And instead of this so under Barack Obama, families that came into the United States were not initially separated. They were caught by, I guess, immigration. I don't even remember the name. What were they caught by? Immigration of some sort?
But on the Obama thing?
Mm-hmm.
They were, hold on.
It was,
I'm sorry.
Was it Homeland Security? No.
It's HHS, right? HHS that
Homeland Security. Okay, so they were initially caught by Homeland Security, but they did not assume them to be criminals. What they would do is they would catch them, but over a period of time, they would release these families. But also under Barack Obama, if a children was not accompanied with an adult or guardian, so they could not find kinship in the United States, such as somebody that was related to the kid, they would send them or keep them in detention centers. Now, there's a photograph floating about, I think there's 2 children lying face down in one of those detention centers, and that is from 2014. So again, unaccompanied immigrants that cross the border. So they cross the border pretty much by themselves. And I guess that picture is floating around from 2014. But again, I don't even think I've said this, that detention center has subsequently closed. And the reason why they had these detention centers in the first place is because under Barack Obama, there was an influx of unaccompanied minors that did come into the United States. And I guess they just did not know what to do with these unaccompanied minors. That dropped under his administration too, and these detention centers were closed under his administration. So now with the new ruling with Jeff Sessions, this is regarding not unaccompanied minors, but families. And because they have a zero tolerance policy, these adults are separated from their children and transferred to the U.S. Marshals, and then they will face federal prosecution. And the children are then sent to a relative, or they are sent to a private company that will find or supposedly or tries to find foster care for them. However, there has been noted issues with some of these private companies, there's particularly an issue with one that was, I guess, opened a while ago, but had to close because of proven abuses and sexual sexual abuses and physical abuses against these immigrant children. This private company has since rebranded, reopened, and recontracted with the federal government to detain these children. So that is very problematic, as you can see why. But these children are sent to the Office of Refugee Resettlement again, and then they are sent to private companies or to a resident living within the United States. This technically wasn't started by Jeff Sessions, as you can see that these companies did exist. It just has amplified under the Trump administration. And one thing that we should note is that this does not apply to families seeking asylum in the United States. And apparently this is happening because there has been a 203%, according to Department of Homeland Security, there has been a 203% increase from March 2017 to March 2018. So in a year of immigrants coming into the country, or undocumented immigrants coming into the country. So let's turn to the issue. Well, let's stop there. Do you have anything you want to add, Janet, before I move to the issue of the children that have gone missing?
Just so I just want to make it clear that, you know, between when we're talking about they call them UACs, which are undocumented alien children, which is a horrible name. That study is not to do with these kids that are getting separated from their family, because the UACs are the kids that come to the border without, I mean, they may have been separated prior to getting to the border, but they don't have a parent or a guardian with them at the border. And so we kind of put the two problems together. I mean, they're both huge issues and they both need to be dealt with, but it is two different topics there. I just want to make that clear.
Absolutely. I think that people go immigrant and children, therefore it must be the same thing. I mean, because and Trump sent out a tweet that actually did not help at all clarify what was going on with this issue. I'm sure everybody kind of saw that. I don't really like to do Trump tweets on this program personally, because they're so...
But you read them.
Absurd. They're absurd. And it is absurd. So I'll break down some of those issues with his tweets, and because I don't have the tweet with me right now, but it was something to the effect of, you know, Democrats are to blame for this. You know, we should have no chain migration. I mean, he was muddying the waters so much. And just basically mixing issue after issue after issue together that really didn't help the situation. So on the lost children, basically, as Janet did say, these are specifically not the children that crossed the border unaccompanied. These are the children that were separated, right? Wait. No, on the lost children, sorry, cut that out. I got like really confused. See, it's confusing. So on the issue of these lost children, these again are minors that were unaccompanied by adults who crossed the border. So according to Department of Health and Human Services, it included 1,475 migrant children that have been lost or are unable to reach. So by loss, what they mean is that so DHS basically called these caregivers that are responsible for these lost children and asked them, you know, are you still looking after them? Are they still in your care and things like that? Or lost as in they couldn't really reach the person or caregiver to begin with. So that's something that does need to be noted when we consider these lost children. So it's completely from a DHS survey. And what it ultimately comes down to, as far as DHS is concerned, is that they're arguing that they have no legal responsibility to find or locate these missing children once they are no longer in DHS's care. So again, they could be outside of DHS's care for a variety of reasons, as in they couldn't reach the caregiver, so they're just assuming that they're lost. Maybe the caregiver doesn't want, maybe the child has subsequently, I guess, is now living with another caregiver that happens to be a parent or another guardian that is undocumented. So again, the caregiver that was in charge doesn't really want to rat out these people because they are undocumented, or maybe they are in more dangerous and nefarious situations. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to really know right now where they are. So regarding, again, these lost children, Republicans, Senator Rob Portman is arguing that it's not only the government's legal responsibility to take care of these children, but even when they have gone missing, it's our moral responsibility as humans to assure that these children are not in dangerous situations, basically to assure that we at least find or know where these children are.
Can I just cut in here for a second?
Yeah.
I wonder, like, if you looked at our regular foster system, and if, you know, how this compares. I mean, this is a big group of children. I mean, 1,400 children, but I'm thinking that in the foster care system, this must happen too, because kids go back with their parents that they're not supposed to be with and stuff like that. Where like if a family member gets the children, they'll be like, all right, you go over here. So then like when they're coming to look for the kids can the parents, and they don't want to sell the parents or anything like that. So I mean, it is a big. I'm sure that a good portion of these are in that situation where they're living with people that either the family's not sure if they're undocumented or they are undocumented, and they don't want to give them away either. Oh,
absolutely. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. And that was kind of what I mentioned, is that these guardians that were in charge of these missing children may not want to rat out potentially undocumented parents of these children that they are now possibly living with. And so it makes a lot of sense that would happen. This does happen in our current system all the time. I used to be in the foster care system, and my mom used to take care of foster children, and this was a big issue that foster children would go missing. So this is not a unique situation just to immigrants, but the problem is that, you know, immigrants are a more vulnerable population. If you can even like do a degree, because obviously foster children are already a particularly vulnerable population, because they do face abuses. Children do get taken advantage of. And there was that report that came out that basically showed about how bad human trafficking is within the United States. And so it's very reasonable to be concerned about these kids. But also at the same time, we have to have a level of skepticism, or at least understanding that some of these children are potentially with their parent that's undocumented. And so nobody wants to basically give up, that basically rat these families out because of the amplification of, I guess, criminalizing or punitive measures against immigrants that do come in the country. So one thing that we need to also note is that in one of Donald Trump's tweets over the weekend, when he kind of didn't do anybody a favor by basically conflating several different issues together, he basically argued or stated, he didn't even argue, he just stated and said that the Democrats are responsible, point to them, because they're the ones that have amplified all these immigrant issues, and they're also the ones that are breaking the families apart. And let's just be real, no, that's not true. Democrats aren't responsible because there aren't any laws or mandates on the books at all about families being separated at the border, and they did not suggest there to be any laws. And they didn't do that under Obama, and they certainly didn't do it under Trump. And so we need to basically say, you know, trying disentangling this whole mess of an issue, we definitely need to assure that whatever party is to blame, we blame the right people for the right shit. And that's one thing that infuriates me about Donald Trump, is because he's always projecting. He's always like, no, it's your fault. And it's like, dude, you take absolutely zero responsibility. I mean, this is one of the problems that I had with Hillary Clinton, because she did not take responsibility for her actions or for anything that she did that was seen as, potentially damaging, or even any policies that she wanted to propose or that she proposed, like that weren't found favorable by a large contingency of the left. She's just like, no, that's really, you're not interpreting that right. Do your homework. Millennials need to do their homework because they don't know what they're talking about. It's like, no, fuck you, bitch. You need to take responsibility because you got caught. And Donald Trump needs to take responsibility because it's Jeff Sessions that did implement this policy of assuring that families were seen as criminal. Period. That is something that happened under his administration. And so we do need to make sure that we, attribute blame to where blame is due.
Well, I mean, personally, the finger pointing, like, yeah, we need to say, okay, this happened prior to this. It was happening under Obama. It was happening. But I think Donald Trump takes that to mean that he's resolved of any issue because it was happening before. So why should he make it better? Or it's not his fault because it was already happening. And this is happening with everything between Democrats and Republicans. They finger point but keep doing the same damn things. So it makes no sense at all. And by the way, I have his tweet pulled up, and I'll just read it. Put pressure on the Democrats to end the horrible law that separates children from the parents once they cross the border. There is no horrible law that does that. Into the U.S., catch and release, lottery and chain. I'm not quite sure what he means there. Must also go with, and we must continue building the wall because that's going to solve everything. Democrats are protecting MS-13 thugs because these children are MS-13 thugs.
Right. And so again, this is how he confuses his base, because he does muddy the water. And he assumes, again, because this is something that the GOP loves doing. And I know that I'm pointing my finger, but there is demonstrable differences between the two parties a lot of the time, especially on the local level. Republicans tend to be a lot more punitive and just assume everybody's a criminal. I mean, we are supposed to assume innocence until proven guilty in this country. It's one of our founding things concerning our laws and our punitive measures. But Donald Trump's administration assumes that you're guilty until proven innocent. And so if he calls you MS-13, then you are by default MS-13, period. And it works. And this type of rhetoric works. And I don't really understand why. Like, my brain just doesn't think that way. And that's why I can't even comprehend, associating minor children with violent gangs. I just can't. And by the way, MS-13 gangs, yeah, they were initially in South America, but right, South America or Mexico?
I think it was South America.
Okay, so they were initially in South America, and I'm not 100% if it's South America or Mexico, but I'm going to say South America. So MS-13 did initially formulate in South America and make its way into the United States, but you've got United States citizens that do participate in MS-13 activity and also that are a part of this gang. And so it's not just, immigrants that are part of MS-13. I think that now they're pretty much natives here.
Wait a second. MS-13 is an international crime gang that originated in LA.
Oh, well, there we go. So thank you, Janet, because by the way, MS-13 is an international crime gang that formulated in Los Angeles. So they were native to the United States. They weren't immigrants that came in and then brought their ganghood here. they were native. I mean, again, that's another misconception, and I'm glad that you fact checked that, because I did assume that they initiated, or they established themselves in another country, but apparently they established themselves in the United States. That's where they were built. It doesn't surprise me, because we have a fucking lot of gangs here, and it's not just, you know, gangs of, you know, South American or Mexican American or anything like that. We have a problem with white gangs in the United States. We do, but you know, no one's going to say anything about them, right? Because they're too much like the administration.
Plus, there's only like 10,000. Like at the most, the biggest count they have is 10,000 members in the United States. How many millions of immigrants do we have? And you're talking about 10,000 people that a lot of them probably were born in the United States if they're members of MS-13 now, since it originated in LA. I mean, yeah, could have some of the originators be immigrants that came here first, but it originated in LA. So it's not MS-13 coming up here. We, in the 80s, created them.
It's MS-13 going everywhere else.
Yes.
So if anything, Americans should be barred from going into any country if they're worried about MS-13, right?
Yeah.
Because it originated here. It doesn't make sense to assume that we are not gang members, because this was established by Americans for all intents and purposes, or at least it was established in the United States. I just think that this is. It's a crazy issue, and again, that muddied the waters even more, to not only blame them on MS-13, but to continue saying that MS-13 was originated in another country, you know. And so you've got muddy after muddy after muddy, and again, what does that do to the public? This is a Huxleyan model, right? I don't know what to think anymore. All of this is so confusing. Everything's fake. I'm just going to assume that nothing is true, right?
I mean,
and when you start doing that to your citizenry, to where they can no longer trust information, they no longer trust reliable information, factual information. I mean, it's a very Huxleyan model, very dystopian, and it works because everybody now just goes, well, I just have to by default believe what I want to believe, because I can't tell what is or isn't true based off of all the information that I'm getting bombarded with. It's very dystopian, and it's very effective. And you've got news people that aren't helping by spreading the photo of 2014 that was under the Obama administration, then blaming Trump, and then blaming Trump for the migrant children that were unaccompanied across the border. I mean, it's just, it's a whole fucking mess. And I think that we need to be careful with anybody and fact check them, especially Donald Trump. And that was my bad for not ever fact checking Donald Trump on MS-13. For some reason, it seemed believable information to me. I don't know why. Maybe that's my own bias. And so you have to ask, what's your own bias? You know, what are you willing to believe? And fact check yourself. The information is available right now. Hopefully we'll continue and maintain net neutrality to some extent, even though it's gone. But, hopefully we'll keep fighting for that so that we can continue to fact check. Because once these corporations, I mean, this is another issue I have, right? I'm just spawning into another problem about corporate control over the media and about where we can consume our information. Because if the corporations, because again, there was that news study, I think I mentioned this on last night's program, the study that basically showed that corporate controlled media was more beholden to the government than government controlled media. And so they basically acted more as the mouthpiece of the government. And so that being the case, if the government doesn't want you to know that MS-13 originated in Los Angeles, what can corporate controlled internet service providers do? I mean, they kind of got a really nice handout from Ajit Pai, right? That works for the government. you know, to ensure that net neutrality protections were removed so that they can charge their customers more money to gain access to all of or most part of the information, but they can also restrict access to parts of the information now without those net neutrality protections. So if they don't want you to know that MS-13 originated in the United States, they would block all the sites pertaining to that information so that you would not know. This is a problem, guys. I mean, the fact that I think, Janet, you're pretty well versed in all the issues here, but a lot of people have no idea that net neutrality was a good thing. They have no idea. And then maybe it's because they don't fucking fact check things. And maybe that's what we need to start doing. Not maybe, that is what we need to start doing, because if you want to fall into a dystopian society, this is the fucking best way you can do it. Is just to assume everything that you want to believe is true because everything else is fucking confusing. Well, there's means right now. There's resources right now that you can use to fact check yourself and fact check anybody that says something to you about some political topic, which is pretty much everything. If they tell you, no, you're drinking clean water, it's not poison, fact check that shit. It's not that hard. Okay, so immigrants. Sorry, guys. So I think that's what I had about the Dems not necessarily being responsible, because, again, there's not any laws on the books that say that immigrant children should be separated. This is a new mandate handed down by the Trump administration. And we talked about the 2014 photo. I think we're good. Janet, is there anything else you'd like to add about this?
No, I think we touched on everything we needed to. I don't know. We can follow up if we need to. Just let us know.
Alrighty. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel if you like what we say and if you like being part of this discussion. We have an opportunity for you to join us on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do a live chat for everybody. So please make sure that you subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so that you do get notifications as to when we go live so that you can talk to us directly. And also please considering donating to our Patreon, because we do a lot of work on this program, a lot of work to actually fact check this information and to basically break down all these issues. And it's not particularly easy, and we would really appreciate the support, you guys. So thank you for watching and have a nice day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.